What if the prettiest lost boy wasn't just another punk vampire, but the most tragic monster in Santa Carla? Marko's story hides something darker than the film ever shows. Tonight, we dig into the dark origins of Marko, the youngest, quietest, and most overlooked member of David's gang. On the surface, he looks like a glam rock angel. Curls, fur coat, the kind of kid you'd see in a band poster. But behind that smile hides one of the most disturbing transformations in the Lost Boys. And here's the twist. Marko may hold the key to the group's secrets, from the vampire lair itself to their loyalty to David. By the end of this video, you'll never look at him the same way again. Marko wasn't just another face in the gang. He was the youngest. His boyish features made him seem almost innocent, a dangerous trick that fits perfectly with vampire mythology. In old folklore, vampires often appear beautiful, even childlike, to lure victims closer. Marko is a perfect example of that myth. Unlike David, who commands attention, or Paul, who cracks jokes, Marko stays mostly silent. He doesn't need words. His cold stare, his small smirk, his presence at the edges of scenes makes him feel more dangerous. He watches, he waits, and when it's time, he strikes. Marko's look is unforgettable. Bleached curls, chains, and that fur-trimmed coat. He looks like a rock star who walked out of an MTV video straight into Santa Carla's boardwalk. But looks can be deceiving. That angelic style masks the fact that Marko is a predator. During the bonfire massacre, watch his face. While the others laugh and taunt, Marko barely shows emotion, almost savoring the kill in silence. That calmness is what makes him terrifying. And finally, when Marko does laugh during the bonfire massacre, it cuts through the chaos, sounding more demonic than human. And here's where folklore ties in again. Vampires weren't always fiery monsters. In many European legends, they were described as cold, silent, calculating, draining life while showing no remorse. Marko fits this mold perfectly. And in the vampire lair, Marko sleeps deeper inside the cavern than the others. It's not random. He hangs closest to David's throne, almost like a wolf guarding the alpha. This also shows that Marko was David's most loyal follower, his shadow, his protector. If David ruled the Lost Boys, Marko was his knight, and that makes his fate even more tragic. Marko's past isn't shown on screen, but the silence leaves room for the darkest truth. He wasn't always the fur-coated, angel-faced vampire we see hanging in David's lair. He was once a boy caught in the wrong time, in the wrong place, and Santa Carla devoured him. The year was 1983, long before Michael and Star ever stumbled onto the boardwalk. Marko was just 16, a runaway from a broken home in Los Angeles, drifting up the California coast like so many forgotten kids of that decade. The early 80s were a breeding ground for lost youth. Punk music blasting from every club, the streets alive with rebellion, and predators waiting in the shadows. Santa Carla was a magnet for the broken, and that's where David found him. Not on the boardwalk, but in the ruins beneath it. A boy with nowhere to go, his curls already marking him as someone too beautiful for the streets, too easy to be prey. But instead of preying on him, David saw something else. Potential. The story goes that David didn't just turn Marko out of hunger. He turned him out of design. He wanted someone who could lure, someone who looked harmless, someone whose silence and beauty would draw in victims like moths to a flame. Marko was perfect. The ritual was quick, brutal, and unforgettable. Down in the cave, Marko drank from the bottle, thick, red, alive, the same blood that bound Michael later. Only Marko didn't fight it. He wanted it. For a boy with no family, no protection, immortality wasn't a curse, it was a way out. From that night, Marko became David's most loyal creation. His youngest, his shadow. The boy who would hang closest to the leader's throne, not because of power, but because David had chosen him, shaped him, and twisted his broken youth into something eternal. And that's why Marko feels different from the others. He's not just a vampire. He's a child of the 80s punk scene, swallowed by Santa Carla, remade by David's blood into the perfect predator. His silence isn't emptiness, it's loyalty. Marko's death is burned into fans' memories. Edgar and Alan Frog stake him while he hangs upside down in the cave. The result? A blood explosion. Violent, messy, shocking. Why him? Why so much gore? His death was designed to be the most brutal, to show the audience that killing vampires comes at a cost. It's not clean. It's not heroic. It's raw carnage. And in vampire folklore, some stories claim the youngest vampire in a brood will die the most violently, as if the curse punishes innocence. That's exactly what happens to Marko. But here's the truth. Marko is the tragedy of the lost boys. He's the youngest, the most innocent looking, the one who says the least, and yet he dies the most violently. While David gets a quiet, almost noble ending, Marko explodes into blood and screams. That contrast makes him unforgettable. His beauty turned against him, his silence broken only by death. If Marko had survived, he could have become the next David, maybe even more dangerous, because he didn't need words, only loyalty. So what do we really know about Marko? He's the angel-faced predator, the youngest and most loyal lost boy, a vampire who embodies old folklore, hiding horror under beauty. His death is not just a kill scene, it's a symbol of lost innocence buried deep in the blood-soaked caves of Santa Carla. And that silence he carried with him, it echoes even louder after his scream. If you want to uncover the next chilling secret of Santa Carla, watch the video that just popped up on your screen.